Hey guys, now that the flood of emotion has passed, I think it's important to talk about the events in Charlottesville. I will not be talking about the event specifically, but I'll be talking about the underlying conflict and how to resolve this dispute between people who think statues of Confederate soldiers should be taken down and those who think they should stay up. So I'll be addressing a few of the points of people who say they should be taken down. We want to avoid this pretty literal bloody Kansas in the future. So first off, the event was overblown. There were people there whose lives would not be affected by the statue staying or going, but I see this as more of an inevitable thing. If you're on one side, you're not going to say, I'm going to be the one who stays home, because your opposition is not going to reciprocate. You need to be there. You need to have your voice heard, and I understand the protests as long as they're done in a peaceful way. And there's peaceful people on both sides. I know media often tries to paint with a broad brushstroke, but there are differences within the groups. They're not all neo-Nazis, and on the other side, they're not all liberal cucks as well. As Ben Shapiro said, there's good arguments on both sides. Now I'm going to be giving a few of the arguments of people who say it should be taken down. I'm going to be challenging a few of those. So first off, they say Robert E. Lee defended slavery. You can say he was ignorant of his actions because he obviously, after the war was done, he said abolition was a good thing. But you could say he still fought for it even if he was ignorant of that fact. But then you get into what Donald Trump said, and the founding fathers owned slaves, and so why are you holding them to a different standard? And most people are not going to say we should tear down monuments to people just because they own slaves, because nobody's perfect, and when you judge people in the past by standards of today, you're gonna get a lot of bad people, because we live today by society's standards. Back then they had different standards, and sure, there's going to be a few altruistic people who say, no, this is wrong. They're going to be the ones who change it, but you're not going to judge everybody by that new standard that hasn't come yet. Another thing, Robert E. Lee, his whole life was not defined by his involvement in the Civil War. He taught at a college, Washington and Lee University. He did a very good job there. He graduated West Point with no demerits. He fought in the Mexican-American War. He is honestly good, noble character, and he's somebody to look up to. Not obviously in all aspects of his life, but that applies to nobody. There's nobody that's perfect out there. But people discard that argument if you bring that up most of the time, and they say, yes, we understand you keep the monument up because not all slave owners are going to be, we're not going to take down all the monuments to slave owners. But Robert E. Lee was a traitor to the United States. He was an enemy of the United States. And this is one thing that I don't necessarily understand. Again, you can look at the founding fathers. They were traitors in a sense to their country, not to the U.S. specific, but to Great Britain. And that's not the greatest argument, but then you move on, enemies of the United States. We have a giant-ass monument to Crazy Horse. He was an enemy of the United States. And sometimes traitors' acts are seen differently as time passes. And so you can't draw that line, I don't think. People who fight against the U.S., we have monuments to them all over the place. That's pretty much the end of my thoughts on the subject. If you guys want to comment down below, that'd be great, and have a nice week.